NDC's parliamentary candidate for Klottey Korle constituency, Dr. Zanetor Rawlings, says she is not daunted by the dismissal of her motion against incumbent MP Nneoma Ashite by an Accra High Court. Dr. Zanetor Rawlings and her lawyers wanted a case challenging her election to be dismissed, but the court disagreed.
Wouldn't say so. It would be better not to have it, but if it's here, we deal with it and we move on.
The case was filed by the incumbent MP for Klottey Korle, Nneoma Ashite, who lost to Dr. Rawlings, daughter of the founder of the NDC, ex-President Rawlings, in the party's primaries last year.
Election.
You didn't lose?
I didn't lose it. I didn't lose it.
Then what happened?
Well, the point is that the woman was not qualified to stand. She was not qualified to stand. So
you tell those who say you're a bad loser.
I'm not a bad. She is also.
Dr. Zanetor's lawyers wanted the case dismissed because it lacked merit, explaining her opponents had not exhausted the NDC party's internal mechanisms for dispute resolution before bringing the matter to court. But the court disagreed on this. So what are the NDC's internal mechanisms for dispute resolutions? Was it not the party that cleared Dr. Zanetor Rawlings? If so, why is this being challenged in court? Or what part of the party's constitution is the party breaching in okaying Dr. Zanetor Rawlings? How does all of these affect unity and image of the party? This is today's big story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. The incumbent MP, Mr. Ashite, is arguing that Zanetor Rawlings was not a registered voter at that time she contested and won the elections and was therefore not qualified by the NDC's own rules to contest. An earlier case brought against her was dismissed because the persons who brought the case lacked locus. The court held today, among other things, that the plaintiff had the capacity to challenge the eligibility of Zanetor to run in the primaries and that the plaintiffs had exhausted the party's mechanisms for dispute resolution. Now, the judge also pointed out that there were procedural errors and that the motion was not properly brought. We can now hear from Dr. Zanetor Rawlings, who says she's neither daunted by the court's decision nor distracted by the case itself.
The case is ongoing, so we're just waiting to see how it goes.
It looks like this is a blow to you.
I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so. Because the case isn't over yet. You can't say it's a blow until it's over, and we don't know that for sure, do we?
Are you confident of winning the case?
Yes.
I mean, this is taking away vital campaign time.
Allow the court to take its own course.
We make good use of the time that we have, so we just keep going.
So this is not distracting you in any way?
I wouldn't say so. It would be better not to have it, but if it's here, we deal with it and we move on.
Mr. Ashite is hoping to get the court to declare Zanetor's elections null and void.
Well, I mean, we're talking about law. Okay, and you can see that there was a very comprehensive ruling that touched on the heart of the matter. That now that their application has been dismissed, we are now moving to the next stage with a motion for injunction to stop the lady from doing any campaign. And then we are going to finally decide whether she really is a registered voter. And that's it.
Some say you lost this election. Why don't you?
I didn't lose that election.
You didn't lose?
I didn't lose it. I didn't lose it.
Then what happened?
Well, the point is that the woman was not qualified to stand. She was not qualified to stand. So
you tell those who say you're a bad loser.
I'm not a bad. She is also, well, I don't want to use wrong words. I didn't lose the election. We are in court. We've come to court. You were in the courtroom. A ruling has been made. We are going on. That's it. That's it.
How do you feel about this ruling?
Well, it's good for democracy, good for rule of law. That's it.
You are confident of winning the case at the end?
Oh, of course. What is left now is about determination of whether the lady is a registered voter. That's all.
From what you heard in court,
Yeah.
do you think your case will be upheld?
I am saying that what is left now is a determination of whether the lady is a registered voter. That's it.
How far are you willing to go to push, get to the bottom of this matter?
Oh,
the elections are close.
it's step by step, step by step. We'll go as far as we can. Yeah.
We're now being joined by one of the lawyers of Dr. Zanetor Rawlings, who will help us analyze some of the issues here. Good evening to you, lawyer Tamaklo. Thanks for your time on today's big story.
Good evening, and good evening to your listeners.
Today, the court held that plaintiff had the capacity to challenge the eligibility of Dr. Zanetor to run in the primaries, and that the plaintiff had exhausted the party's mechanism for dispute resolution, directly opposite what you are saying. So on what basis were you seeking to dismiss that case, challenging your client's elections?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me put it on record that the court did not say that the plaintiffs have, in fact, exhausted the internal grievance mechanism of the party.
Right.
However, the decision or the position the court took was that since the issue at stake borders on Article 94 of the Constitution, it raises very serious issue that the things cannot be remedied using the internal mechanisms of the party. So it was not the case that they have exhausted it. Two, it's important to also make the point that there were serious issues that came up, and we think that, yes, the judge has given his ruling, even though we disagree with him. That is the ruling of the court. Under the circumstances, we are obliged to comply with same. But again, as lawyers for the second defendant, Dr. Zanetor Rawlings, ours is to get a copy of the ruling, study it, and advise ourselves as to the next line of action.
And so on what basis was the issue dismissed or the case dismissed?
Yeah, that's why I indicated, as you are aware, we raise issues as to capacity, we raise issues as to exhaustion of internal remedies, among others. Now, from our reading of the plea that was before the court, we formed the view that the matter was to adjudicate on the internal rules of the party. However, the court took the view that the matter borders on a challenge as to eligibility within the meaning of Article 24, and therefore it was a constitutional matter, and therefore if it was a constitutional matter, every other Ghanaian, irrespective of whether the person is NDC or NDC, the right, so to speak, to come to God to challenge. Whether or not that position is the correct position of the law, let's get a copy of the ruling and we'll advise ourselves. So we canvassed several grounds, and the court, in its view, disagreed with us. But like I said, this is just an interlocutory matter. We have the right to speak, having gotten a copy of the ruling, read it properly. We may decide to appeal it right to the highest, the apex court of the land, or we put in our defense. And, so there are several options available. Study the ruling, and then we'll see our next line of action.
We're meant to believe that the judge also pointed out that there were procedural errors and that the motion was not properly brought. Did anything like that happen, and how did this happen?
It's the judge took the view that the rules and ways were coming, but as you are aware, that notwithstanding, he was to, as it were, examine the matter on its merit. We, with all due respect, disagree with that position, and like I said, we'll get a ruling, and for us, it's a very long, it's a marathon, so we don't want to run this race as though we are having, what shall I say, a 100-meter race. It's a serious marathon, and we are preparing for it.
Certainly, your client is not moved by this ruling. Are you going to challenge it?
In fact, like you rightly pointed out, she is very focused on her campaign. She is least distracted by what happened in court today. She's even more encouraged, at least, for if not for anything. At least now we know the reasoning, the thinking of the court, and that for us is very good. At least it gives us how to proceed going forward. Yes. But But like it is the case, we are very much focused. She will do her politics, we will do the law.
Well, many thanks to you, lawyer Godwin Tamaklo. He's a lawyer for Dr. Zanetor Rawlings. We really appreciate your time on today's big story. If you just joined us, we're talking about a case that was thrown out in court today. The case was supposed to dismiss incumbent MP Nyama Ashite's request for the election of the Korle Korle parliamentary aspirant Dr. Zanetor Rawlings to be declared null and void, but the court disagreed with that, and the court says that the party's mechanism for resolving such disputes have been exhausted, challenging what the lawyers of Dr. Zanetor Rawlings are saying. And the judge also said that the motion was not brought properly and that there were procedural errors. But Dr. Zanetor herself says she's not moved and she's not distracted by this ruling. Mr. Nyama Ashite says that he wants the election of Dr. Zanetor Rawlings, declared null and void. We'll be hearing from the lawyer for the incumbent MP for the Korle Korle constituency, Nyama Ashite. We'll also be talking to the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC party to tell us what kind of mechanism they have in the NDC in resolving such matters. We'll also gauge the mood of a lawyer to tell us what exactly, where there's being breach and what is in this case for the two parties in the case. We'll take a break on today's big story. We'll be back shortly. This is today's big story, and we're joined on the phone line by Gary Nimakun, his lawyer for the incumbent MP for Korle Korle constituency, Nyama Ashite. Good evening to you, lawyer Gary Nimakun.
Oh, hi. Good evening to you. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. So which aspect of your the NDC's constitution is your client saying the party has breached?
Oh, I will say good evening once again to your cherished listeners. And let me state that because this matter is ongoing, I do not intend to run a radio commentary on the matter. But just to state briefly that the challenge simply is about eligibility criteria of Dr. Zanetor Rawlings. That's the challenge. And I think this is an open secret to everybody in Ghana, that there's a challenge as to his qualification in respect to the fact that at the time that she went to contest the primaries, her name was not on the National Voters Register. And basically, we have also indicated that it's a condition precedent that for anybody to qualify for primaries in the NDC, what you ought to fulfill is that you must have your name as one of the conditions on the National Voters Register. So basically that is the whole case.
So what are you seeking in this matter, to stop her from contesting and make way for your client?
To stop her from contesting?
For the election?
We are saying that you cannot put something on nothing. What we are simply saying that at the time of the contest, she ought to have been disqualified. Even though there were numerous protests against the candidature by the people in the constituency, they were disregarded. Now, having then been disregarded, and even post-elections, subsequent petitions they also disregarded. So basically, if you go into a party internal matter and nobody wants to hear you, the only avenue for you to vindicate your grievances, obviously, is a court forum, and no other place than a court forum.
Is your client not challenging his own party's powers, considering that the party okayed her to go ahead?
Well, If the party in its own wisdom, okay, Dr. Zanetor Rawlings to contest the elections, then it means that what they did, in our view, was a palpable breach of their own internal regulations and their own constitution, and also the national constitution. If you look at their own internal regulations, paragraph 5C will tell you that anybody who wants to contest for primaries, parliamentary primaries, your name ought to be in a national register. This is not a provision that was put there by Niamash, a provision that was put there by the NDC's own internal party people. They did it. So one will reasonably conclude that having put down your own internal regulations and your constitution, you will follow it. You don't need anybody to come and tell you to follow their own regulations and their constitution. So that is the whole thing, So as I'm saying, we do not intend to run any public commentary on this matter, because the matter is sub judice and the issues at stake. Now, having been told that they have lost the application, they have to now come in and file either a defense or file application to, let's move on. So basically, that is it.
Well, many thanks to you, Lawyer Garrett Nimako. We're truly grateful for your time on today's big story. On the other phone line, however, we're joined by George Lawson, his Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Good evening to you, George Lawson. Thanks for your time on TBS.
Fine evening. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, the incumbent MP for Korle Klottey, Niamashite, is accusing your party of breaching your own rules in giving Dr. Zanetor the nod when indeed she's not a registered voter. Did you cross-check that before okaying her?
I beg you, we have not violated any regulation. We did what the best. What the party did was the best. If you brought an NPP lawyer to come and run as a project, at least we have a candidate. Nobody can tell us who should be our candidate. The people of NDC elected a candidate. So that's all. We have not violated any rule at all. When he was that NPP lawyer was talking, he talked of a clause in our constitution. We should have mentioned it. You have quoted it. As a lawyer, when you mention it, when you quote it, why didn't he quote it? He talked of eligibility. Eligibility, what is the? We have eligibility, and this eligibility, so it must be eligible. That is a member. Eligibility talks of membership. Qualification is in terms of the national one. But in terms of it, we have eligibility and qualification.
So is Dr. Zanetor Rawlings a registered voter?
He's a member of the NDC.
Is she a registered voter?
He's a member of the NDC. So he's eligible to stand as a parliamentary, as an aspirant.
Well, the court also talks about...
We are talking of, in our, it is not a national voters register that is used in vote when we come to our panel. It is our register. So she was eligible. That's all.
The court also talks about her opponents not exhausting the party's internal mechanism for dispute resolution. What mechanism do you have, and to what extent was this applied before getting to where we are now?
Yes, our this thing talks of we must exhaust all this thing. They said, when you look at the article in terms of the voice and the new one, it says all members of the party are enjoined to exhaust complaint procedures contained in the Constitution before recourse to legal proceedings or adverse publication in the media against the party at any level. So I don't know whether they have been able to, they have exhausted those procedures.
But this certainly doesn't look good for the party. First, it's not good for unity in the party. And second, I mean, it doesn't look good that people are accusing you or you've been alleged to breach your own constitution. What do you intend to do about this?
An NPP man is telling us we are breaching our constitution.
But he's a lawyer of a member of your party.
I don't say he can be a lawyer. He's an NPP, a new NPP member. He's a lawyer.
Niamashite is a member of your party.
The law is an act. So he's a lawyer. So he will just be punching some misplaced holes.
But Niamashite is a member of the NDC.
I just want to make it clear. We have not breached our constitution.
Right.
We have not breached our constitution. We have no breach of constitution. We went according to what our constitution says. We have not breached it. So for an MPP lawyer to come and say we have breached our constitution, I find it out of place. He doesn't know our constitution more than we do. If he says he knows the national constitution more than we do, fine. We can leave that, but not our constitution. Not our constitution. So
Well,
we cannot be throwing dust into the eyes of the public. But the fact is, you're talking that it's not good for. Why not good for us? We went for primaries, and somebody elected. So if you are not satisfied, there are, in terms of procedures within the party to address those grievances. It's not the court. It is when, you, according to our constitution, you exhausted all these things. You have the constituency one, you have the regional one, you have the national one. You must exhaust. That is it.
well, many thanks to you.
We don't have anything to say.
Judge Lawson, many thanks to you. That's all time will allow us. Let's now speak with a private legal practitioner, Victor Kojoga Adaudu, to also help in this discussion. Good evening to you, Victor Adaudu.
Good evening, Aisha, and good evening to your terrific listeners.
Now, the court held, among other things, that the plaintiff had the capacity to challenge the eligibility of Zanetor to run in the primaries, and that the plaintiff had exhausted the party's mechanism for dispute resolution. The judge also goes on to say that there were procedural errors and that the motion was not properly brought. How does all of these come across to you?
Thank you, Aisha. Aisha, I believe that this case that we saw was an offshoot of the first motion that was sent to court, where some other gentlemen, the court dismissed them because the court said they did not have no good standard. That means that they did not have any interest, or they were not going to lose any interest if they came. So it was on the heel of that we saw this application, this new writ coming, where the former regional minister and the MP for NDC Klottey Korle with John Coleman have come in. And I believe that what the lawyers for Dr. Zanetor went was to dismiss the action with some reason. And the reasons they were given was that, one, he has not exhausted all the mechanics, the internal mechanisms by which conflicts are resolved. Because the principle of the court that before you come, if there is any mechanism for you to resolve a matter, you need to exhaust all before you come. Secondly, you can come and say there's no cause of action. If you look at what has been brought, the effect that there's nothing to be discussed by the court. So the court should instead. And I believe that's exactly the lawyers for Dr. Zanetor did. And the court said no, they have an interest in the matter because he contested and he is a...
I think we lost Dr. Kojoga Adaudu there, but he points it clear and he gives interpretation of what exactly happened in court today. This is today's big story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Good evening.